What I'd like to do is tell you a bit about my career path and my current role, as well as steps that you can take either in a small or bigger way if this is something you want to do. So this is me at 16. I had frizzy hair, glasses, and I had loads of pimples, and I refused to wear my glasses, so my optom fitted me with contact lenses and changed my world by introducing me to my future career path. I enrolled in optometry, finished that in 2003, and started working with HCF Eye Care, and you can see my OCD streak by how organised I kept my files. By 2005, I got to the point where I felt like I wanted to do something new, so I started looking at other options. I considered going into research, and the Brian Holden Vision Institute, known as the Institute for Eye Research then, was advertising for a clinical optom. And I took on that role in 2005 and worked with them on their contact lens related clinical studies. In this role, I had the opportunity to travel a bit and discuss my research. And it was in one of these meetings where Brian Holden was lamenting the fact that microbial keratitis continues to happen. And he was saying that corneal erosions are the ultimate cause of this, and that full thickness loss of epithelium causes that pathway for pathogens to get in. I just didn't understand, though, what causes erosions in the first place. And I, again, had reached that point where I thought that I wanted to improve my current skills and gain new skills, for example, working in a lab. So I made the decision to take on a PhD and started this in 2008 under the supervision of the team that you see there. Eric Pappas, who's a friend and mentor now, Brian Holden and Nerida Cole. In this task, we first did a literature review to look at what we knew causes contact lens related erosions, and really there wasn't much out there. We formulated research hypotheses and questions that we were asking about what causes these, and once we'd done that, we were able to plan studies to address these questions. Before getting to that point, we needed to validate the techniques that we used and applied for ethics approval so that we could actually do the studies. Once we had that, we did the studies, collected the data, analysed the data, and wrote up the results in scientific papers and as part of my thesis. And again, I got the chance to present at conferences and travel overseas. And this was a chance where I got to meet some really interesting people, discuss my research, as well as go to some really exciting places. By 2011, it was time to submit the book, and you never do anything alone, including a thesis. It's always done with a team that supports you. So I submitted my thesis with a bunch of wonderful people with me, and I graduated in 2012. In 2012, I also started working again with the Brian Holden Group as their project manager of the Meibomian Gland Dysfunction Project. And about 8 months into this job, one of my colleagues came to me with a printout. This printout. It was a position description for a lecturer at the School of Optometry. And she said to me, "Have a look at this, you might like this." And she was right, I did. I applied for the position as lecturer and got lucky with that. And my current role involves these three areas. The major part of is research. So this is where I get to choose my area of focus. For me, it's ocular surface and tear film and how that changes in contact lenses, in dry eye, and in disease states like diabetes. This is also where I get to supervise research students, some really bright people, both undergrads as well as postgrads. And the worst part for me in research is applying for grant funding. This is really difficult because you have to put in a proposal for a study you want to do and hope that the funding body will give you the money to do the research. And it doesn't usually turn out that way. So the other bulk of this job is working in teaching, and this is probably the part I enjoy the most. And I work across the board, stage 1 through to stage 5 students, majorly with stage 2 students, and it's really a lot of fun. The other part of working as an academic is what they used to call service, and now we call engagement and leadership. So this basically is where you serve the community in some way. For me, I serve on the university's Human Research Ethics Advisory Panel, the Ethics Committee, And if anyone wants that role, let me know. I'm also on the Early Career Academic Network for the university. I also work with the Optical Foundation, which was set up by Carolina Coonan, who some of you may know. She's now a postdoc in Alabama and set up this foundation in Ghana to help set up eye care there, teaching, as well as now research. And there's other things that you can do as part of that service as well. So what I like about being an academic is that there's a clear career path. So from associate lecturer through to professor. And at each stage, you need to demonstrate, you apply for promotion, and you need to demonstrate that you've made significant progress in each of those three aspects of research, teaching, and engagement and leadership. So if I was to summarize the good and the bad of academia, I'd say that the good include the teaching, the research, and the freedom to work in the area that you choose to. The fact that I'm constantly learning, I don't feel stagnant, it's always changing for me. And that there's flexibility. I can work from home, for example, when I'm writing up my papers, if I'm not teaching. The pressures tend to be more long-term, so I have to publish, but I don't have to do it tomorrow, so it's not as immediate. There's a chance to travel or even work overseas if you wish, and more scope for alternate career paths. The clear career progression path that I mentioned, and the fact that no day is exactly the same. The bad, without a doubt for me, it's the rejections. The paper rejections, the grant rejections. And I think as Sean might sort of touched on, it makes you resilient. You might not climb Everest the first time, but eventually, apparently, you get there. There's no immediate sense of achievement like you have when you see a patient, and it never seems to end. There's always something new. And it's easy to get immersed into the little area that you've chosen to research. So you have to make a real conscious effort to learn outside that area. Otherwise, you start to forget things like the retina or therapeutics. And while pay is okay, you don't go into academia for the cash. Jobs do rarely come up, I must say, in academia, although, as Andrew touched on, we've got 5 schools now, probably more scope for jobs. So if this is something that you want to do, little things that you can do if you just want to incorporate academia in a small way in your life. You can get involved in teaching yourself, such as working with in clinics like Monica does, work in the pre-clinic lab, and you can approach me if you want to get involved in working in the pre-clinic lab. Rebecca Dang, who some of you may know, is joining us next semester, as is my colleague Ling over here. Take on preceptorship students if you like. Get involved in research by being a study participant. Go to conferences like the American Academy of Optometry and gain your fellowship like Jack Fu has done last year. Go to postgrad and undergrad conferences and team up with an academic whose research interests you. If you want to get involved in engagement and leadership, and join the ethics committee, or get involved with the Optical Foundation. And this is a plug on my end because we are looking for someone to work with us for 4 months to help us set up the research under our guidance in Ghana later this year. Talk to others. Talk to people like Agnes Choi and Jack Fu, who are PhD students now. Ask them why they're doing it. Why have they dropped the salary of a full-time optometrist to take on a PhD? Talk to Monica, who's on the other end of that, sitting right over there, and has a senior position at the Brian Holden Vision Institute. So if you want to do a PhD, find a topic you're interested in. But in my opinion, what's even more important is finding a supervisor that you can work with. Look up their CV, make sure you can work with them. Talk to some of the people who've worked with them in the past. Enroll in a university and find a way to pay your expenses for the next 3 to 4 years by gaining a scholarship. And I've got a website there and you can always ask me for it later. Post-PhD, you can work in academia, like I mentioned. You can work in a research institute, like Andrew mentioned before, with industry, work for government. It's what you make of it. So my take-home messages, if I can just close with this, like the other speakers have said as well, have that goal you're working towards, even if it's changing. Have something significant that you're working towards. Because by having that goal, you've got something that helps you grow and learn and just improve yourself, basically. And Susan's nodding, and I think everyone in the room agrees. Have a mentor that you can turn to for advice, someone that you can trust, who won't impose their opinions on you, but someone who can help you meet your goals. Look at the careers of people who've been there, done that, and who you'd like to emulate. But it's always equally important to look at people who you don't want to be like, because you need to have both sides. Stay dynamic, up to date with the literature, even if you change direction, open to change in clinical growth. So like when you see something new at a conference, try and absorb that into the way you practice. And love what you do, and if you don't, move on. So in closing, I'd like to thank Optometry Australia, the young optometrists for the invite to be here, and Andrew, who always takes care of our profession even when we don't realise we need taking care of. Thank you.